Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Abraham Lincoln. Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your hostess, Shamisa Ali. Good evening to everyone joining us on Facebook and on YouTube. I hope you're enjoying your week. Tonight, our discussion will be on agriculture expansion and diversifications. Update on soya, corn, sugar, fishing, and flood control. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by a coordinating council of Guyanese based in the US, UK, Canada, Guyana, and the Caribbean. Funding support is by well known philanthropist Dave Narayan from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderators for tonight, Dr. Tara and Mr. Shrad Kublal. Welcome. How are you guys doing this evening?
Mahendra Hariraj.
And Mr. Mahendra Hariraj.
Thank you, Shamiza.
Pleasure having all of you here this evening.
Thank you.
He started his professional career in agriculture working to represent farmers in the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union in 1989 to 2002. He then served as a regional chairman and later a member of parliament for a number of years up until 2020. In 2020, he was officially appointed as the Minister of Agriculture of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Since the beginning of his role as the minister, he has taken several steps to strengthen the resilience and sustainability of the agri-food systems of Guyana. His efforts have mainly been invested in assistance to agribusiness stakeholders. Invested in strengthening agriculture institutions, improving infrastructure, providing adequate incentives and assistance to agribusiness stakeholders. A major area of focus has been the strengthening of drainage and irrigation capacity for more efficient and effective flood control and access and ease of transportation through farm-to-market access routes. Please welcome the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustapha.
Thank you very much. And let me
having you here this evening.
So let me first of all thank you and your moderators for inviting me in this program. I hope that this will be very informative, very interactive, and at the end of this program, your viewers and audience out there would have a better knowledge of Guyana's agriculture sector and what we are planning to do in the near future to ensure that we have food security and at the same time realize the potential of Guyana.
Well, I hope that's what we're able to accomplish here this evening. Dr. Tara, I'll now hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Shamisa. Honorable Minister, welcome to this program. I know we've been trying to get you a long time, so we are happy to have you here today. As I mentioned to you earlier, we have with me Shrad Kublal and Mahendra Hariraj, who will try to not really to clarify positions that you would want to state during the course of this program. Now, before we start, we know you have a very big and challenging task. I believe agriculture contributes about 17% to GDP in Guyana, and that your budget was over $28 billion, even though it was just half the education and health budget. But you have a formidable task ahead. But before we start, I just want you to give us an update on the fabrication factory at Enmore and the status of the packaging plant.
So first of all, Dr. Singh, let me say that, let me give a highlight on the agriculture sector in our country. You mentioned just now that agriculture would have contributed 17% to our GDP. And when you look at today's economy in Guyana's term, agriculture is contributing almost 24.8% of non-oil GDP in our country last year. And there is immense potential in our agriculture sector that could make a significant contribution to the improvement of food security, poverty reduction, and at the same time, sustainable development of communities throughout the regions in Guyana. And at this point in time, the agriculture sector is one of the most important sector for any country, because we have to take into consideration the last 2.5 years, what we have faced as as countries around the world in terms of food security. We have saw all of us have saw what the pandemic has done to countries around the world. We in Guyana are very fortunate that we are producing almost 60% of the food that we are consuming. But there are many rich nations out there who have funds and who have the capability to purchase food, but they were unable to purchase these food items and commodities because of scarcity and the crisis in the food sector. When you look around the world today, you are seeing about people talking about the catastrophic problems that food are faced with, the food sector. When you see go around the world, sometimes in some nation, people are hardly getting 2 meals per day. That is why in Guyana, we are very fortunate, as I said again, that we are producing almost 60% of the food that we are consuming. But as a government, we are not satisfied with that. And your topic tonight are expansion and diversification, and you want update on the new and emerging sectors in the agriculture sector. And I will do that just now, and I know for a fact you are very interested in the sugar industry, the packaging plant, the expansion of the sugar industry, and things like that. But I want us to concentrate a bit so that your audience would have a fairly good knowledge at the end of this course here this evening. What is Guyana rules today in CARICOM? What is Guyana role in food security? And how, as a nation, we are preparing to deal with food security over the coming years. And food security became so important today that the entire CARICOM is now all the heads of government meeting, all the forum and fora that CARICOM have or had recently, there is a topic dedicated to food security, sustainability, resilience of the food industry. And this came about because of CARICOM Food Import Bill, of the ability of CARICOM country to produce their own food, because we, as countries in the Caribbean, we have faced with many challenges over the last 2.5 years during the pandemic. And we are seeing it again during the war now with Ukraine and Russia. We are seeing a food crisis is being developed there. And I will tell you what we are doing in the country, in Guyana context, not only for Guyanese and not only for Guyanese economy, but also to look up further field in CARICOM. I am very happy to say today that with the innovation, with the ideas coming out from our president, Guyana has taken back its role in the food sector, in the agriculture sector. When I became Minister of Agriculture 2 years ago, on August the 5th 2020, Guyana would have lost its place in CARICOM in leading the agri-food system. Since the formation of CARICOM in 1973, all the presidents or leaders of Guyana always lead the agri agenda. But from 2015 to 2020, we had lost that place because of the then government, how they treat the agriculture sector, how they treat food security. And that place was taken up by St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So when I became Minister of Agriculture, CARICOM wanted to craft a food strategy. And that task was given to St. Vincent. But at the first heads of government meeting of CARICOM that our president went, we rescued that position once again. And today, I am happy to say that the entire Caribbean, all the countries in the Caribbean are looking towards Guyana, that leadership. We talk about reducing the food import bill of CARICOM by 25% in 2025, and Guyana is leading that charge. We have already shortlisted and prioritized a number of commodities that we will work on to reduce the bill, because the CARICOM food import bill is between 4 to 6 billion US dollar annually. And if CARICOM has to reduce that bill substantially, 25%, in another 3 years, then Guyana has to play that leading role, because what we have abundant fresh water, we have good arable land, and now we are having the funds coming into Guyana. Three main ingredients, or three main components for food security and to develop the sector. So we are happy that we are now an oil and gas producing country. But oil and gas is not the end of it all. As a government with vision, as a government that we are looking at the future, we will use this revenue coming out of the oil and gas sector to develop the agriculture sector. And I want to tell you that today, Guyana's agriculture sector is once again very robust, because in 2015, when we came out of government, the agriculture budget was 18 billion Guyana dollars. And when we get back into government in 2020, we took an agriculture budget of $11 billion. So you could see what the government of the day was doing in terms of increasing budgetary allocations. Instead of increasing allocation to the various sectors within the agriculture sector, we have seen a decline by almost $8 billion. Today, as you rightly said, just 2 years in government, we have seen an increase by 10 billion $10 billion once again in the agriculture sector. So you could see the priority of governments. You could see where we are looking at to develop a sector, to make it resilient, to make it sustainable, and to also make it food secure. So we have our priorities, as you rightly said, and we'll go through it just now. You talk about sugar. Sugar is one of the areas that we plan to resuscitate. You know for a fact that when we were in the opposition, we said that we will reopen the closed sugar estate in phases. So we have started already. As Minister of Agriculture, it falls under my responsibility. We have already started at Rosal, and that is moving at pace. Hopefully by next year, we can have that estate once again operating and grinding. We are looking at various aspects in bringing back places like Skeldon, and as you rightly said, the packaging plant at Enmore. So what we have decided to move the packaging plant at Enmore from Enmore to Albion, increase the lines there, because at Enmore you had 3 lines. We want to increase it by 5 lines at Albion, increase the Blairmont lines, and make two packaging plant that is efficient, because Albion is the premier industry or the premier sugar factory in our country. And there, you know for a fact that Albion produces the largest amount of sugar. We want, and the sugar that they are producing, the quality is very good. So we want to move the packaging plant. As a matter of fact, we have already started it.
Minister, my
Yes.
apologies for interrupting you, but we can't see you.
Well, I don't know, something wrong. I saw on the
camera perhaps is off.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about it. Something probably okay. But I was saying that the sugar industry, we will revitalize it, we'll recapitalize it, and we will try as much as possible to bring it back to operations. We have already started at Rosal. We are looking at also public-private partnership at various other estates, especially places like Skeldon. We are looking at Enmore. We have already looked at the taking in the labor force at Enmore. We have investment there. That the island gas, what you call it? We have diversified that plan there to make an island gas yard there for and those workers will be absorbed or have already been absorbed by the new owner of that facility. So what we are doing, we are ensuring that what was done by the previous government in making almost 35,000 Guyanese, place them on the breadline, we are now bringing back those people once again into employment. Today, if you go to Rosal, you'll see that the entire area is once again lively. Almost all the economic activities that were there prior to the closure of the estate has once again restarted. We are seeing that workers, almost 240 workers, have been employed at Skeldon. Almost another 200 plus workers have been employed at Enmore. But as I said, we have discovered also that there were minimal investment in sugar, because although they have had a $30 billion, you remember that loan that what they took, they never spend it in the sugar industry. The sugar estate, the factories like Rose Hall, Blairmont, sorry, Albion, Blairmont, and Iflot were running just below 50%. We had to recapitalize it. We have to change the entire gantry system. We have to change all the rollers, bearings, chain. You would know the kind of components that make up a factory. So majority of those things we have changed, and we are continuing looking to change those parts to make it more reliable, make it more efficient. So as I said, that many naysayers and doomsayers would have said that the PPP government said that as soon as they get into government, we'll reopen the closed sugar estate. We have started it. It's a work in progress, and we will continue to ensure. But as a government, as a responsible government, we will not put people on the breadline. We will ensure we employ as much people as possible, bring them back in the economic stream, and so that they can earn. As a matter of fact, you would have known that the vice president went to various regions in the country, places like Region 6, Region 5, Region 10, Region 3, Region 2, and launched the part-time program, where thousands of Guyanese now are earning almost approximately $40,000 monthly, and working 10 days per month doing community services around the country. That's a responsible government also, to where people are contributing and making them earn a living or get economic activities. So these are the things that we are doing. But coming back to the agriculture sector, what we are doing, we are consolidating and expanding what we had, the traditional crops that we had. For example, in the cash crop, or those crops that we normally plant, we have seen an increase in those areas. Because of the inclement weather over the last 2 years, although we have seen the acreage in rice has reduced a bit, but the yield have increased tremendously. What we have done, we have brought out a new variety, and that variety is capable of moving the national average from 39 bags per acre to almost between 55 to 60 bags per acre. So whilst we have seen, because the land is so bad, the rain have been falling all the time, almost for the last, I was making the point at a meeting, the president was at that meeting. Since I became Minister of Agriculture, almost every single day, you're getting rainfall. But the point is that this is really climate change is taking place now in the country. You know for a fact that last year we would have suffered one of the most severe flood in the history of our country, where almost 80 to 90% of the agriculture sector was disseminated by the flood, where people had to go back quickly to the land. We had to have money and to give them to go back to the land as quickly as possible so that we can start back production. So all these things, the government is investing in the agriculture sector. So whilst the agriculture budget is $28 billion on paper in the agriculture ministry, we have seen $7.8 billion allocated to flood relief. We have seen $1 billion allocated to fertilizer distribution. We have seen money will be allocated to the fishermen, the fisher folks. So all these money, when you add it together, you have a considerable sum that are allocated to the agriculture sector, because we recognize the importance of this sector, and we'll continue to invest in it. Now, this brings me to the point of diversification. What we are doing. I don't know if your two guests want to ask me any question. They could stop me anytime I ask, and I could continue. But agriculture is so broad, as you rightly said, an hour would not be enough for us we might have to continue this discourse some other time. But the corn and soya industry, what we recognize, we want to develop our livestock industry, but we don't want to develop it in isolation alone by itself. We want to develop it and link it to various sectors so that we can have the backward and forward linkages. So what is there we should do? So we said we have been importing proteins for the livestock industry, costing us almost 50 million US dollar annually, both corn and soya. So the president said, look, we should look to plant our own corn and soya. So we form a consortium with a set of businessmen, and we have them working with them together. Last year, we started out at 125 acres. This year, this will increase to 4,000 acres. And in another 3 years, hopefully, we can increase that to 25,000 acres so that we can come self-sufficient. And at the same time, be a net exporter of proteins, corn and soya, to the Caribbean. The Caribbean imports almost 138 million US dollars annually of corn and soya. So there's a ready market for corn and soya. And the two countries that can do it, now Belize have started it, Guyana have started it, and I think between Belize and Guyana, we can have enough production of corn and soya to satisfy the industry. We are self-sufficient in poultry supply. In Guyana, local consumption, we don't import poultry product or poultry meat, sorry. But what we are doing, we want to be a net exporter, that we want to increase the poultry industry. So that is why we are going in this direction. So we have started the production of this in the Ibini Savannah, Takama, Borbis River. We are building the infrastructure. We have already started the construction of the 2 phases of roads in that savannah. We are building a silos and a dryer for the people them there, and they will be doing the planting. So corn and soya will be a crop now, a crop coming out of a new crop, coming out of Guyana, so that we can develop the livestock sector. So that's the way you plan. The other thing, what we are looking at also, we are looking, because Guyana is so prone to flooding, we are below the sea level. At the same time, we are seeing climate change affecting us severely now. In our time, and when you were in Guyana, you used to have 7 inches of rainfall in a whole month or 2 months. Now you have 7 inches of rainfall in a night, 2 hours. And our system is not capable of taking off those water. And you will know, my friend from Maikoni will tell you, when the Maikoni Creek raised, the entire Maikoni is underwater, right? So we are trying now to put system in place. We have started it. We have expended a lot of money in the DNI system, and we will make it more reliable in terms of looking at those structures that we have on the East Coast, the Hope Lake Canal. We are looking to build those structures in regions 3, 5, and 6 so that we can mitigate flooding. We are continuing to desilting a canal. We are looking now, I am looking as Minister of Agriculture, to complement every sluice with a pump so that we will not have 6 and 8 hours of drainage from the sluice alone, tidal drainage. We will have 24 hours of drainage, because when the sluice close, the pump will come into operation. So all those things we are putting in place to ensure that we have a system that is reliable, a system that is resilient, a system that will help farmers, that they will not lose their crop. Quickly, before I go, I know you all will want to ask me a question, right? I will give you the time too. I am looking at another package too of agriculture insurance. Agriculture insurance in this part of the world is very important for farmers, because we are very, very vulnerable to climate change. This part of the world, we are the second most vulnerable area in the world. So we have to prepare our farmers. Many times the government will have to come in and support the farmers when they lose their crop. But to give farmers relief, will not able to compensate them for the entire crop. So we have to have a package that can compensate the farmers when they suffer these problems, suffer these disasters. So I'm looking at that. As chairman of the ministerial task force, coming out of our president, his idea in reducing the food import bill, CARICOM form a ministerial task force, which Guyana is chairing, and yours truly is chairing that. I've been having the kind of input from Minister of Agriculture throughout the Caribbean, where they are looking to put some of the measures that we have started in Guyana, adopt some of those measures to implement those measures in the country. For example, quickly, one example. We sat down, we look at the subsistence farmers in Region 6, those farmers that are producing shrimp, brackish water shrimp, these swamp shrimp. They used to produce 12,000 kilogram monthly. when you look at all the production. So we said that if we help these farmers, if we put in the infrastructure, we can double production. So we wanted to increase it from 12,000 to 24,000 kilogram monthly. So we sat down, we had a chat with them, we discussed with them, and we started the work to enhance and put in the infrastructure. So what we'll do, we provide the machine, we dig their ponds, and we put in the necessary infrastructure like the boxes, the tubes, and so. We are only 75% completed in that project, another 25% remaining. And we were able to increase within 7 months brackish water stream from 12,000 kilogram to 70,000 kilogram. Now the government taking that money become disposable income back in the communities. The people now that you have in the rural communities, places like Johns, Port Moran, number one, you know the area I can call it. So we are now looking at that to replicate that across the country. We have seen a reduction in marine fishing. We are now looking to develop our aquaculture industry. The president went to various areas in the interland area, and we look at some of the intervention that we can make. We will now start cage culture. Cage culture in places like Kapoi, Mainstay, the interior where you have running water. So those people can have a livelihood there. And one cage is capable of giving you almost an income of $8 million annually. So you could see in innovative way, we as a government, we are helping to doing things to help the citizens out there, help the farmers out there, help the stakeholders who are involved in the sector. I will pause here and hand you back over because I have been going for some time.
Yeah, Minister, I believe the major challenge in the agriculture sector, you just mentioned about the flooding, which you are trying to control that, but sugarcane is on the public domain. And recently, Vera, who resigned as a member of the board, said one of the major challenges is rain, but other people are saying the management structure. And I was wondering whether mechanization will solve the problem, or you still depend on traditional labor, where you get the labor from. That's another issue that has been raised by many people. If you can address that, please.
Now, the issue of mechanization, eventually we'll have to go there. You as a person, or I am a person, will not want our children to continue being cane cutted. We want improvement. So we'll have to mechanize and improve the cultivation. So what Gaisuko is doing now is to change the settings so that we can prepare the cultivation for mechanization. So they are now changing the old Dutch beds to the English beds so that those beds are more feasible for machine to cut the cane and load it. Also, what Vera wrote, I don't think those things are factual. They had, and I don't want to get into it, but there were personality issues in those things. And when the dispute came at the board level about the type of tractors, I commissioned a committee that was headed by the chief engineer of NDIA, reputable person. They went, they look at the operation, they look at the system, and they recommended that both tractors are useful based on the condition. So they didn't give a opinion that one tractor should be purchased. Both the case tractor, or what you call it, the articulated tractor, and the John Deere tractor. So, but the point is that the estate, we are looking to mechanize to ensure that we develop these cultivation to ensure that it has the system where these machine can cut the cane, because you will not continue to have cane cutters all the time. And as you rightly said, if we want to improve cultivation, want to improve the industry, we will have to, at the time will come, we'll have to do involve in a lot of mechanization to ensure that we move production from labor intensity to more mechanized form of production.
Okay, thank you. Before I pass on to Kublal, there's another, well, it's not really a question, but your comments on a lot of Guyanese have been showing interest in the new crop, and that was recently passed in Parliament, industrial hemp. Can you please elaborate on the scope for that? How people can, is it a Guyanese who wants to do that does he require a license or a permit or something to ensure?
So you're right, right. I piloted that bill in the National Assembly, and it's clearly stated any Guyanese 18 years and over can apply for a hemp license. It will. I am now looking at names recommendation to have that regulatory authority, and that board will be governed by that authority. Will have a CEO, and any application, any person who want to apply. But we will be restricting from initially restricting cultivation to certain areas. At present, we are looking at Region 6 and Region 10. And there are reasons why we are looking at those regions firstly, but eventually later on we'll look to increase it to other regions. But Region 6 and Region 10, you have known the depression those regions have gone through. We have the two closure of the sugar estates in the two sugar factory in in Region 6. We have had the closure of the call center in Region 10. There are a number of persons who need economic activities. We have the land there too. The soil is very good, fertile to grow hemp. So hemp, anyone, you could live in Georgetown and cultivate hemp in those areas too. The point is that there are some misconception where people are trying to say that the bill will only give a few the privilege to plant. No, and we will do it in a way that every single small person will benefit in plant because this is a very lucrative crop. We have to be very good in terms of nurture it to make it an industry. Remember, we don't have an industry. We have to also look at processing plant to have processing plant in our country if we want to be involved in all the products that coming out of hemp. You have over 2,500 products you can get from hemp, right? But you have to plan it in a way that to nurture this industry to make it an industry. So initially, we will be very careful in terms of how we go about doing it. In terms of giving, I don't think we should give large scale farmers hundreds of acres of land to plant hemp, because that might cause a problem in the industry, and it may only be a few to enjoy it. So I am going like for small farmers, an acre, 2 acres, so that you have a much many persons as possible, small farmers who will benefit from this industry. This is a very, very lucrative industry, but we have to know how to do it. There are many countries who started it or which started it, and they have failed because they have not planned it. And we have to take those look at those mistakes that were made by those countries and have best practices using Guyana.
Thank you, sir. I'll now pass it on to Kubi and then to Mahendra.
Minister, Minister, I know you're a very popular guy. You might be the most popular minister in the country. And it's indeed a pleasure to have this dialogue with you. I recently noticed that the government is bringing in, on a perhaps experimental basis, the black belly sheep. I've spoken to a number of farmers, especially in my Coney area. Many of them are small farmers rearing cattle and sheep and goat, and they know nothing about this black belly sheep. What is the procedure for the benefit of the viewers? What is the procedure involved in farmers getting involved in this, let's say getting a pair or a couple of this black belly sheep to experiment, to join in the experiment?
So first of all, let me tell you, the main objective of this black belly sheep is to create a brand for us in the Caribbean. As we are speaking here today, we don't have a brand that we can own in the Caribbean. We have the New Zealand lamb or the Australian lamb coming to this part of the world. Why? As a region, we can't create our brand. So first of all, the black belly, we'll use the black belly sheep to create a brand for us in the Caribbean brand. We'll have a mixed breed of sheep from the Guyana Creole that we have and the black belly. And also we'll develop the black belly industry. Now there are a number of farmers who will be targeted and trained. As you rightly said, my people have already started to look at those farmers, identify those farmers who we can work with. There will be many training. But the president instructed that I should ensure that we have 30% women and 20% youth in this project. So not only men would be involved in this program. We are also looking to have a section of the differently able person. So what I have done, I have earmarked 200 acres of land in the MMA scheme that we'll give to the women, the young people, the different able person, so that we can help them there to have pasture development with those land. Coming back to your question about the farmers that are interested, we now have a set of our officers going around talking to farmers if they will be interested, and then we'll work with them. Because remember, so we got to be formed too. The culture in our country is that when you get something, or if I give you as Minister of Agriculture 2 sheep, you don't want to give anything out of that again. You will try to get it for yourself. Now we have to change that culture, because what I have been doing, we have been looking to improve the genetic in the livestock industry. Right now, in another 3 weeks from now, I'll have about 60 Brahman bull coming in from Florida. That will help. We'll give to farmers. We'll help increase the breed. I am having more, what do you call it, swine. We are looking to increase the swine industry. I've shared out almost 35 new breed of swine to swine owners. We are looking also the same what you are saying there, to develop the breed, to increase the genetic, bring in better breed of these animals. So those farmers who are talking to you, they will be targeted and they will be in the program. But there will be certain measures that you will have to take. For example, if I give you 2 sheep, a ram and a ewe, then at the end of it, when they drop, you will have to give back another 2 to somebody, and then you increase it like that. That's the way we plan to do it, to make that brand, increase that, and create a brand in the Caribbean. Between Barbados and Guyana, I am hoping and we have a plan, in between 6 to 10 years, we can have a complete new brand of mutton coming out of the Caribbean.
Another question I wonder, could you elaborate on the experiment that you have for growing wheat in Guyana?
Good. So I plan to talk about the wheat a little later, but as you are eating here, so probably the vice president and the president sat down at night and they called me. They said, listen, we're getting this problem with wheat. We might get problem with wheat. We have to look at growing our own wheat. So I call my people them. We have these scientists we have at the Burma Rice Research Station. And I said, look, we have to find out where we can get some line of wheat to do experiment. So immediately they set about, and we had 49 lines came from Mexico. And we started that because with the war in Russia and Ukraine, we are anticipating that almost 30% of world production of wheat, we might have a fall short, because those 2 countries combined together, they are producing almost 30% of the world wheat. So if you have that shortage, then wheat price will increase. This part of the world will have a problem in getting wheat. So we have to look at it. So we started the wheat trial indoor, and it was very successful. Very, very successful. I have the pictures here. I will send it to you all. And y'all could post it on your pages to show what we have done. Now, I have had discussion when President Bolsonaro came to Guyana. We had a discussion, and the governor of the state of Roraima said that they have been growing tropical wheat in Roraima. So when you look at Roraima is a couple mile away from only Guyana, the border there, Region 9. So we started the discussion, and the NARI that we have, the National Research Institute that we have at Manripo, they got something in Brazil they call Embrapa, their research institute. So we have had discussion with the Brazilian state of Roraima, the governor there. We have had discussion with the state Embrapa, and now we have decided, we have signed an MOU with Santa Fe, the farm in Region 9, and by the end of September, we'll start the open field trial in Guyana, close to about 500, between 200 to 500 acres with 6 different varieties. I am hoping at the end of it, we can have a candidate variety and we can start grow our own wheat. That will be a whole new process for us in Guyana. If we can do that in Guyana, we'll not only do it for Guyana, that will be for the entire Caribbean, because the entire Caribbean import wheat. I am very optimistic because the people in Embrapa said that wheat will be successful in Guyana. So I'm very, very optimistic.
But how successful is wheat growing in Brazil?
They said that it's growing on a commercial basis,
Profitable.
right? And they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they will share it with us.
All right.
We will now go to
Mahendra with your two questions.
Sure. Good night, everybody, and good night, Honorable Minister Zulfikar. Coming from Region 3, I think you'll be remiss of me if I don't raise this question around the sugar industry and Wales Estate being a casualty of the Coalition Vindictive Act of closing an industry without any proper alternative for employment. I know your ministry is very vital to the entire Guyana, and it is a ministry that has a multiplier effect, such as an industry such as Wales Estate. Many of the surrounding communities around that estate now essentially has a difficult time with employment, etc. I know you spoke about reopening various estates around the country. And I think, if I recall correctly, Wales is maybe at a position where reopening might be a very difficult task. In that sense, given the lands available, the structure of how those communities were configured with labor and the type of education known to maybe masses of people there, what alternative agriculture related projects are you looking at to maybe revitalize in that region of the country? Given I know the vice president and spoke about the gas to shore projects and some other major transformative projects, but specifically to agriculture and Wales and the surrounding communities, are there other initiatives you're looking at?
So first of all, I want to say that Wales and the entire West Bank there will be the envy of Guyana. Not only the gas to shore project that we talk about, but we will create a Wales Development Authority. The Wales Development Authority will have a number of industries, various industries, be it agriculture, be it in different other areas. So that will be an entire block of industrial site, which will cater for thousands of jobs. Not only those persons who were affected by the closure of the estate, but thousands of jobs will be migrated to that area. That area will become an economic hub for our country, the Wales Development Authority. And as you rightly said, that what are the industry? Well, there are many industry I could talk about. Many industry. That will be a big lot of industrial site. There are many industry, agriculture, other development, pharmaceutical, everything will be having there. So that area will be an area, and where a lot of people will eventually migrate to go for economic fortune in that community, because we know, and you rightly said it. We know when we made the commitment, we know for a fact that we can't reopen Wales because they destroy Wales so much that we have to have a new factory if we have to do that. So I know that, yes, so that area is earmarked for the Wales Development Authority, and we'll have a number of industries in that area, and people have a number of choices where they can go and work.
Thank you.
You have another question, Mahendra?
Well, since I have the floor, maybe I'll sneak in my second question in the interest of time. Minister, I know you have a ministry that is so critical to the fabric of our country, and agriculture is one of those things that is in the genesis and the upbringing of so many people. The three major challenges we know on a global level is the growing population, climate change, and the eradication of poverty. And I know you have placed many emphasis on DNR, the drainage and irrigation investment, and so on. Given that there will be an influx of additional people coming to Guyana, which we know because of the abundance of our resources, how do you manage the immediate challenge in the agriculture sector with the roadmap ahead of the 2025 initiative, so on? How is it that your ministry is planning to meet the immediate challenges, given we have so much influx and interest in Guyana?
So we have to have a plan, and that is plan we are working with. As I mentioned earlier, that in the ministerial task force, we in looking to reduce the food import bill of the Caribbean by 25% in another 3 years, we have prioritized a number of commodities that are high in value, so that we can produce it right in the Caribbean instead of importing it. For example, let me give you one of the commodities: poultry meat. When you look at the poultry supply in the Caribbean, Jamaica, Guyana, Suriname, Belize, Barbados, and Trinidad have the ability to supply the entire Caribbean. But the other Eastern Caribbean countries, 98% of the meat they use in coming from North America. So they're importing inflation into the Caribbean. So what we are doing, we are looking at that because of the, as you rightly said, the challenges. They will not be so much because we have already have a plan that we are working towards. For example, we want to create the largest hydroponic park in the Caribbean in Guyana. Coming out of the Agriculture Investment Expo that we have had from May 19th to the 21st of May. Recently, last week, we attended the Trinidad one, because we are seeing now it's been replicated across the Caribbean, the Guyana model. We now have investor coming to Guyana to set up the hydroponic park in Guyana, where they will be looking at all the berries, things that we import: raspberries, grapes, strawberries, those things they will create here. We already gave him he has the land. He will be coming in to do it. We have Republic Bank have made available 100 million US dollars to come up with some projects in the Caribbean to reduce the food import bill. We are taking advantage of that. We are looking to start a new project where we are now helping farmers around the country, potential farmers, workers, people in the community, to start the prawns project. The prawns project is a very lucrative project, especially in places like your country, North America, among the diaspora. There are a lot of potential in Guyana that can bring in a lot of money in the prawns industry. Now we have already employed a consultant, and and very shortly we'll start the 2 projects in Region 6, over Winning, and in Region 5. One is one private one have already started in Region 3, Hubu. You'll know Hubu. They started one there. So this here also, this will help reduce. So what we are doing, we are working with a plan. We talk about the corn and soya. We talking about the livestock industry. We go into the looking at the high value crops, things like, and simple things. Let me tell you something. You all might not believe me, but things like carrot, broccoli, and cauliflower. We started a shade house project with young people, young graduates from the University of Guyana and the Guyana School of Agriculture. The president set up a company with these young people, call it the One Guyana Company. Now they have started cultivation of the high value crops. These high value crops that I just mentioned, cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots. Last year alone, we imported $2.6 billion in that with those things. Now, with Guyana moving up within the oil and gas sector, we have almost 1,500 additional people, 15,000, sorry, additional people in the oil and gas sector. We have to feed 3 times a day. You'll see the opportunities will be very, very big in our country. That is why we passed the local content bill to protect our farmers, to protect our investors too, because they can supply, and you could use the agriculture sector to invest in the oil and gas sector, because people can't eat the oil and gas or drink the oil and gas. They will have to eat. They will have to have special cuts. That is why we are setting up abattoirs. We're setting up one at Rising Sun. We're looking to have people trained to do special cuts, because these things are needed in the oil and gas industry. We are looking to have proper quality vegetables, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, so that the oil and gas industry can have an excuse to import those things, because we are growing it right in our country. So the challenges, although as you said, the challenges that is there is things like flooding, climate change, crisis like what I am doing now. I am revamping the entire extension services that we offer to farmers in this country, because we had extension officers there. They usually didn't do the routine things, go to work and just leave. Don't. So what I want now in the agriculture sector, that look, you have an extension officer, he or she must be responsible for a number of farmers. At the end of the week, they give a report what they have done, how much farmers they advise, they talk to the train, so that we can have the training replicate across the country, so that we can have best practices around the country. Because we have to move away. We have to move away what we are doing now. Agriculture now, we have to do it in a smarter way. Because gone are the days when you go in a field and you throw two seed and you want to grow it up and go to the market. What I am doing now as Minister of Agriculture, we are doing things in a better, in a more safer way, in a smarter way. And I, as Minister, I want to see the farmers move away from only primary production. So this year alone, I am building almost 7 agro-processing facilities in various parts of the country. Not only in Georgetown, like the Sophia packaging plant that many persons know about, but places like the Deep South in Region 9, Blackbush Polder, Charity and the Essequibo Coast, places like Fort Wellington. So the farmers can take their produce to these packaging centers, make it more value added, and have better prices for their produce. Prepare it so that they can be more attractive. Prepare it so the quality can improve. Those are the things we're working on through the new GMC. Now, the new GMC, the objectives of the new GMC, they had it, but they never executed properly. So what I am doing now, that farmers who don't have market for their produce, the new GMC now, they are finding market. They are working with the farmers and working with the market forces out there. For example, Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, Trinidad and Tobago, they now want all the fresh fruits and vegetables from Guyana. We know we had a number of non-tariff barriers from Trinidad. You know, Trinidad always caused this issue. Last week, we had a meeting, a bilateral, with President Ali and Prime Minister Rowley with our team. And those barriers now are artificial. Those barriers will be removed. So Guyanese farmers will have a free export to these part of the Caribbean. Barbados, we have already started all the citrus, pineapple, fresh vegetables. They want to import it from Guyana rather than the Latin America and the Central America. So there are more opportunities now for Guyanese farmers. There are more trades within Guyanese farmers. And last Friday, when we had the Agri Expo in Trinidad, His Excellency would have reported on the progress that we have made so far in implementing the 25 by 2025 vision that we are moving on to reduce the food import bill. And when you look around the Caribbean, countries that used to depend solely on tourism are now moving and going to agriculture. There are renewed interest, as Dr. Singh rightly said, there are renewed interest in the agriculture sector to move the process forward.
Okay, Minister, I just want you to let us know the status. About a year ago, there was some announcement of a milk plant to be established in Mahaika. And then there was also an agri-processing plant at Enmore. And recently, there was some misunderstanding or some kind of confusion over the status of the palm tree people in New Amsterdam. If you can come into those three, please.
No, right now as I'm speaking, there's a dairy plant being built at Anvoak by a private investor from Canada. It's moving apace. As a matter of fact, hopefully in another few months it will be completed, and that plant will be in operation. Last 2 weeks, the DDL we have signed an MOU with DDL for an investment of $10 million to build a dairy plant in Guyana. So those are the investment that we are talking about. There are many other investors coming on board. As you rightly said, that the president have declared Region 5 the livestock capital of the Caribbean. So we have been looking there to ensure that we build certain facilities to take care. For example, the Black Belly Sheep project will be in Region 5 because the MMA scheme has a lot of land space that we have to develop there to take into consideration these investments. So as you rightly said, yeah, there are investments coming on stream in different areas, in different parts of the country. But we, as in the Ministry of Agriculture, will have to also guide investors, which are the best area to invest. In the MMA scheme, in the Maikoni, Mahika, Bari areas there, you know for a fact the primary activity there is rice farm or rice cultivation. There are many farmers who want to increase their plot. We are working with them. Only last 2 weeks, the president and myself was in the all three of the scheme, including Kanji Creek too, all this creek there. We met a number of persons, and there are a lot of requests that we have to do things, but we have to take it in phase. And I think that in a matter of years, for come, the MMA scheme will be one of the most developed area in our country to move agriculture, not only rice production, as you rightly said, agriculture development, livestock, rice, and other crops to move it further.
Do you share the view that ethanol should replace cane sugar?
Well, that will come eventually. That will come eventually as the worlds move on. You will see that these things will come on board. Ethanol is an important thing. We are looking, some investors are interested in ethanol production in our country. We are in discussion. Only yesterday I met one of them. So I'm looking to see how we can do that.
If that will come later, from where will we get sugar? We have to import it.
No, but eventually sugar will not end in Guyana. Let me be very frank. We can't stop the production of sugar. But we will have investment in as you rightly said, diversify. A factory can make sugar and make ethanol at the same time, so they diversify a certain aspect of it.
Thank you, sir.
Before you go off the air, before we come to closure, before we came on here, actually, we had a slight discussion on visitors going to Guyana. You know, the cricket is coming on, and there will be thousands of Guyanese going back home to enjoy the game. And I'm certain sure they're going to bring out of Guyana a number of fishes, especially fishes. Could you like to elaborate for the diaspora to know that what policy is there?
Well, we don't have any major policy in terms of people taking back fishes. That has been a long process. People normally take that whenever they come to Guyana, things like fishes, pepper and other things back to North America. So I don't see that system will change. But as you rightly told me,
a number of people will be complaining they've been facing difficult time.
I will find out because you raised it with me.
Yeah, at the airport, people want to see, threatening to. The funny thing is that they're threatening to seize the fishes, but they don't. But they just
as you raise it to me, I will investigate it and we'll deal with it.
Yeah. Okay,
right?
thanks.
Because agriculture officers should never have.
Very much. I know the time is running out, and we have from our audience we have Shamisa going to ask 3 questions from the audience at random.
All right. We'll definitely get to the questions, but I would like to know more eventually about the process of bringing fish back to the U.S. and various other countries. So definitely give us an update on that when you have it available. The first question that I have from our viewers is from someone asking if Lenora will be decided a tongue.
Well, as the countries develop, we will have to make decisions, right? So that is a far-off process. Lenora as a tongue. We will have to look at it and see. But as it stands now, not immediately, but Lenora have been developing, and the entire west coast of Demerara and West Bank have been developing, like across our country. We want to modernize our country. We want to develop the infrastructure. That's the objective of our government. People don't want to live in areas that are places that have structure, that you have mud dams, you have to walk through water, and things like that. So eventually we continue to modernize and develop our infrastructure.
Thank you. We'll now go to a question from Vernon Bedesi. He says, if the government will subsidize any hemp farmers like they do in other industries, example, loans, grants, or anything they have in mind.
Well, as I said, that we have this entire system to be set up, the regulatory framework, the regulatory body, and that will eventually come as a recommendation. We can look at it because we have already decided how we'll approach it, as you rightly said. I mentioned it about small farmers giving a small farmer acre, 2 acre, 3 acres of land. We can help them to build their infrastructure. So those will be contribution towards these farmers to help to improve, to get into hemp production.
Okay. And then I have another question from Brian Edwards. He says, how much in a dollar amount is the government subsidizing the soya and corn project?
Well, if I could say that last year and before the infrastructure, we would have expended almost $600 million in terms of building the infrastructure, in building this the corn and soya what you call it, the dryer, the silos, to build the roads. So we are helping out these things. So and then you have the private investors too. So we are contributing to ensure that we develop an industry. And that's the government intention of ensuring that corn and soya we go on a large scale production in terms of building that.
Well, thank you so much for answering those questions. Minister, I would like to give you the opportunity now to go ahead and make your closing remarks before we leave here this
So
evening.
first of all, let me thank each and every one of you for inviting me on this program. As I said when we started, that agriculture is so large and wide that one program will not be sufficient enough for us to go through all the aspects of agriculture. But what we have seen over the last 2 years, we have seen governments intention of developing this sector, moving this sector forward. We have seen budgetary allocation increase in every budget that we have passed so far, so much so that we are now in the Ministry of Agriculture itself, we will be expending almost $29 billion this year. But leaving out that the support that government is giving in terms of other support, fertilizer, relief to the farmers, inputs in terms of reducing land rental and D&I charges alone. In 2015, 2017, the former government would have increased D&I charges and land rental from $3,500 to $15,000. We have reversed that back again, and with that intervention that we have made, farmers today are saving almost $1.8 billion in the remain in their pocket. Those money is once again become disposable income. So you could see the contribution we are making to this sector. We recognize the importance of this sector. We recognize that this sector here, we have to continue to develop it, because this sector is not a temporary or a sector. This sector is a permanent sector that we have to develop to make it resilient, make it sustainable, and at the same time make it food secure. I am very happy with the leadership of our president in terms of leading our country and leading the Caribbean to achieve its goal. And that goal is to reduce the food import bill. And I think that we are moving there very aggressively. I'm very optimistic that come 2025, we will have that, and Guyana will make that very important contribution of reducing the food import bill, because we have, as I said, we have abundant of fresh water, we have good arable land and large land space, and we are now having the investors coming to Guyana, and Guyana will make that contribution in removing. So there are opportunities for a number of people, persons, investors who want to come, especially people in the diaspora. They can come to invest, and there are a number of areas that they can invest in the agriculture sector. So once again, let me thank you for having me on your program, and I wish you very well.
Thank you, sir.
Minister, before you go, I just want to throw this thing out to you, how you react to this. The former Minister of Finance has said recently that Guyana already caught a Dutch disease. You have any reaction to that?
Well, then they can say anything. That guy could say anything. Anything that guy could say, you know that. But when he was in the country, the economy was in shambles. He was the man who said in 2017 that drone now are shine rice for the farmers. And that was I said in the budget debate, that was a figment of his imagination at that time. And you could know the guy who is Jordan. So you can't be surprised with guys like those. But I think our country has a very robust economy. We have very prudent management of the country's economy. We have some very good person in terms of putting measures in place, implementing measures in place, so that our country can develop and move forward and be one of the envy in the Caribbean.
Thank you. Mahendra, you have a final word?
Well, quickly, I think, Ms. Zulfikar, your ministry is so important, and the work you have been doing is so evident across the region, not only in Guyana, but here in the diaspora as well. And that's why these conversations are very pertinent. And I'm definitely more engaged now from your discussion. And I hope that all of the challenges that you're faced with, that your plans will be capable, and I know they will be capable of getting Guyana to the place it needs to be and earning that title of the breadbasket of the Caribbean again. We are so capable, and I think in your hands and the government hands. We have the infrastructure is there, the plans are afoot, we just have to execute.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And before you go, I want to thank you for sparing your precious time to appear in this program. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, we had Bishop Edgell on this program, and he said one of the hardest working ministers in the government is you. So that speaks a lot when a fellow cabinet minister can acknowledge a contribution publicly. And we thank you, continue with the great work, and let's hope that all your dreams come to fruition. And final word, Kobe, you want to make up for them?
Go ahead, Mr. Koblon.
Honorable Minister, I know your task is very wide and elaborate, but I must say, everywhere I go, everybody's praising you, especially in Maikoni. Everybody's saying great things about you, and I think you have the farmers' interest at heart, and they are supportive of whatever you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, and I think Guyana is going to go to a far better place.
Thank you.
Wow. I don't know if I can just follow up with whatever you guys just said. I've heard so much praise, but just listening to you, Minister, I can feel that sense of responsibility on your end. You're very knowledgeable, and you also give us a sense of pride of what you do. So with that said, I would like to thank all of our viewers for being here this evening. I would like to thank you for taking the time for being here, and to our panel. Thank you guys very much for being here. Until next time.
And we can get him back.
Oh yeah, we will. We're definitely looking forward to having you back. Like you said at the beginning of the
For
program,
sure.
there is so much to discuss. 1 hour is not enough. And I look forward to having you again. And until next time, this is the Guyana Dialogue. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. All the best. Keep safe.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mahindra.
He left.